Hello. In this video, we are going to talk about student engagement. We will go back a bit and we'll review what extrinsic and intrinsic motivations are. Then we'll discuss what it means for the students to be engaged. We'll also look at responses of our students to work. And finally, I'll discuss with you a couple of ways of engaging students. So, if we go back to the video about motivation, you will probably remember that our aim as teachers is to bring our students from the safety level to the growth level. And when we are bringing them to the growth level, it's very important not only to evoke their interest and esteem, which we do by interesting and valuable topics in our class. Not only need we involve and give our learners more autonomy, which when we do it brings us from surface to deep learning. It's also very important to develop in our students responsibility for learning. Because if they are responsible for learning, they become 21st century learners. They become lifelong learners. And that's the moment when not you and the parents tell your students what to do, but your students are so much involved that they already become responsible for their learning. Again, I should say here that probably it's not possible when you have younger kids, but it's quite possible with teenagers, especially teens in the high school. So let's look closer at student engagement. You probably have noticed that when your students are engaged, they are attentive, they are persistent, connected, and committed. But very often we as teachers are focused on our own performance. And I would like to cite here Philip Schlecht, who says, it's not the performance of teachers that causes students to learn. Rather, it's the performance of students that should be the assumed course of learning. So when we plan our teaching, we need to plan the involvement of our students and their performance. Very often, we can see such responses of our students to work. In class, they are either engaged, that means high attention and commitment, or they show strategic compliance, it's high attention and low commitment. There may be ritual compliance when your students show low attention and low commitment when they're not involved, or sometimes they even may show retreatism and rebellion. Of course, as teachers, we aim at least these two higher levels of involvement. And I hope you'll be able to reach them if you know the ways of engaging students. The ways that I find rather doable are, first of all, the learning material, then active learning, eliciting, and learner autonomy. Let's look at what we may do with the material. Material has to raise our students' interest, you hook them, and for this, you probably need to go back and to learn more about how to organize information graphically, how to make it more understandable, how the students who are digital natives, who are post-millennials, who really don't get lots of information at once, how they learn. Like from my personal experience, using digital tools helps a lot, but also graphic representation of the information and meaningful revision helps a lot. We also may engage students when we do active learning. I recommend you the Nobel Prize winner, Carl Wieman, who introduces material to older students, like young adults and older, by at first not presenting the material, but asking question and giving a test. It's very close to TTT approach, to teach, test, teach approach, to test, teach, test approach. So asking questions, then teaching the material. Then what is really important is that you don't ask your students, but students go back to the material and discuss the answers in pairs. And finally, you check the answers by discussing them. So active learning can be modified to any English lesson or any lesson in general. And the main aim here is to evoke the interest of your students by presenting at first the test of the material, like assuming that they already know something about this, teaching them, and then testing their knowledge again. So when we do grammar and very often some vocabulary when we do these presentations, eliciting is also a great way of engaging students. So this collective deal of knowledge, when students, you don't teach them, but you just draw this knowledge out of their minds, also helps a lot. So the new knowledge has to be based on what the students already know, and that is easier for them to elicit a grammar rule or a meaning of a word by knowing the meaning of affixes, like modern textbooks offer lots of eliciting. So I hope you also use it. So another way of engaging students is learner autonomy. When we in the classroom, we'll be talking about it when we talk about classroom management as well, but when not a teacher, but the learners decide what to do, then when and how long they're going to do the task, then when students choose who to work with, and when finally they choose the techniques on how they will do it. By doing this, these are very small bits of making your learners autonomous, but by doing this, you will involve them into the process. Not the teacher, but the learners are the constructors of their knowledge. So I encourage you to use this as well. So another pack of learner autonomy strategies includes not answering their questions at once, but it's very close to eliciting. But using the strategy 1, 2, 3, then me. So when a student asks the teacher, you don't answer it, but you allow other students to find the answer. Then I find reporting a very important technique in developing student autonomy. So any kind of a work, like pair work, group work, and speaking projects with surveys, if it involves reporting, it greatly involves the learner into the process. It greatly engages a learner into a process because a learner has to listen and then to repeat all this in the report, which as a task is very engaging itself. So, and you may also use responsibility raising strategies when you ask your learners to set goals for a unit, a lesson, or a course. And here, remember that goals have to be smart. So they need to be measurable and they need to be achieved, like you should be able to achieve them. When the goals are understood, you may make your learners understand the benefits of doing this task, and self-assessment at the end of the class also helps a lot. From my own experience is like especially with older student, giving the lists of topics that need to be studied during the year, especially when they are preparing for an exam. So also makes them responsible for their learning, because they see the list, they mark, they highlight the topics that they have already studied, and then they understand what they need to study again more. Yeah, so what the material for the further study is. So, conclusion. If we need to engage our students, we have to involve them, and first of all, by reducing our teacher talking time, and by remembering that in every activity, in every learning moment, we transfer from passive to active learning. Like when you examine what you do in the class and what you do with this group, always ask yourself, am I teaching passively? Like, are my learners learning passively, just learning by heart, or doing rote memorization, or just reading and answering the questions? Or are they involved into the process? For developing this involvement, you again examine your teaching style, and you try active learning, you develop learner autonomy, and you always don't give the answer, but you ask your students to either elicit or go back to their background knowledge and find the answer themselves. Like you make their inquiry level higher, and that is how your learners may be involved more. And finally, like the final goal is to raise the students' motivation by making them responsible for their learning, like by making them really responsible for what they do. And here, you as a teacher need to decide what to do. They again may decide. You may start with very short, small decisions, with like small tasks when your students decide what to do, or when they assess themselves, or when they mark or highlight what they have learned. So thank you for your attention, and I hope your learners will be involved in better learning. Thank you.